The good old days are gone and the new normal is here. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. In today's video, we are going to talk about what's happening right now and how millions of people will be affected by it. I'm going to get into all the details and share them with you right here. What I have seen has been the central banks and the government, of course, they have been devaluing your currency each and every day. But we have been told that you don't need to worry because there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Some people propose that light as a massive deflation. Asset prices will go down, and so you can buy things for pennies on the dollar. And other individuals have basically suggested that they have one solution or another. Just buy this, just do that, and you're going to be all good. But let me tell you, in today's video, you're going to get the truth. Let's begin. Here we have it. Inflation is permanent and you'll never regain your lost purchasing power. And of course, it doesn't need to be Jim Grant or anybody else. We can see that each and every day we go to the store, we have to buy this and that. We are finding this to be true. It isn't the case of, inflation is going down, but let's be honest, prices are not going down. You could see these metrics, the CPI, the PCE, yeah, they'll go down. But does that mean that my food is going to be any cheaper? Oh, well, they'll show you the eggs or they'll show you poultry or what have you that maybe had a particular spike at some point based on some issue, but your prices that you pay won't go back to 2019. And in fact, what they're telling you, I just read this today, that the Federal Reserve, as well as everybody else, suggests that inflation is healthy, inflation is good, but as long as your wages keep up with it. The entire design of this system is that money is debt and it is born out of nothing. Each and every time that happens, your currency that you keep, that you're trying to save, is devalued over and over again. And so we can see that not just in the fact that some statistic that they're going to present to you, it is there in real time affecting your daily life. And how does it do that? Well, New York City apartment panned as glorified prison cell comes with shockingly high rent price and prime location. So I will show you this at the end of the video because we're going to conclude with it. But what do you think? Okay, very tiny apartment. It does have a bathroom. What would that be in a monthly rent? What do you think? We're going to talk about at the end of the video. Please put your guesses below. I want to know what you think. I'm talking tiny, okay? You could probably practically touch from one side to the other, okay? Almost. So let's do this. Rising wages will help. Inflation is particularly unsettling when the cost of living rises faster than people's paychecks. Families struggle to maintain their standard of living, let alone get ahead. This was the case for many people in 2022. Yes, that's right. For the last 7 months, average wages have risen faster than prices. If that continues, workers should be able to gain ground. And Jerome Powell, your friend, he said that might help improve the mood of people. That's right. You should be happy. You should be pleasant because your inflation that you're experiencing is less than your wage. I mean, that's true, right? I mean, Jerome Powell's saying it and the statistics are showing that. Do you agree though? I'm not sure many of you do. I'm really not sure about that. US homeless count surges 12% to highest recorded level. This is the most ever. All of the programs, the billions of dollars that are being spent to get the homeless situation under control, and yet it's gotten worse. How many jobs, how much business, and all of the individuals surrounding the homelessness problem are potentially at risk if there are no more homeless? Do you think there's an issue here? That's right. There is no business in resolving that crisis. Instead, it's there to manage it, to deal with it, to be there and spend millions and billions of dollars on things that look like the problem is being taken care of. But of course, not the case. It's obvious. They are not trying to actually fix the problem. It doesn't need the billions that have been thrown at it. It needs a lot less than that. For those on the front lines of this crisis, it's not surprising. People across the country are struggling to pay skyrocketing rents. And that's essentially the case. One thing after another, there are many reasons for it. But when you're paying thousands of dollars a month for rent, well, how are you ever going to make ends meet? Yeah, you can live 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 20 people to a home. But for many people, it has become unaffordable. Americans are skipping doctor visits due to costs. Share of U.S. adults who went without some form of medical care because they could not afford it. And that is at 28% right now. Okay. And so you can see very clearly during this period of time, 2020 till now, inflation picks up. People are skipping the doctor visits. Everybody from every corner of the world are talking about the cost of living crisis everywhere. And it seems like this has been an issue that has just been, oh, it's such a surprise. But if you follow the activities of the central banks and the government, like we talked about, then you're going to see that it is an intentional situation. This happens to be something that goes on through a cycle, and they are telling you very clearly and evidently that you need more inflation in your life. It's sad, but that's what they say. Metro GM says 10 stations and 67 bus lines may be cut. 2,000 layoffs possible if budget gap isn't filled. And so we'll see this in different cities, but I just pulled this up. This same situation is going on all over the place. They are going to cut the infrastructure. They are going to make it more difficult for you to get around. And at the same time, you're going to pay more. You're going to pay more and you're going to get less. I hope you see all these dots that are connecting. Do you? If so, hit that thumbs up button. I do appreciate that very much. You got to understand this. Cutting from here, cutting from there. Oh, no. It's just because of this or that. Oh, it's just because of that person in charge or this company is the problem. It's not the way it works. This comes from top down. And when you start to analyze the details of the activities that they go through during these cycles, it becomes so clear, crystal clear, in fact, that this is a job being done to make sure that there are the haves and the have-nots. Everybody will be squeezed. And this has been going on since 2020. There's no doubt about it. Underwater car loans signal U.S. consumers slammed by high rates. And you could see the percentage there. Obviously, you start increasing rates, you enter this situation. People can't deal with it. They can't pay their bills. They can't. Of course, because there's so much debt, because everything costs so much money today, unreasonable amounts of money. And yes, there's corporate greed, part of that. But I know from my own e-commerce business, I'm getting squeezed left, right, and center. Right? And I can't there's only so much you can do. There's only so high you can lift your prices. I haven't lifted prices in years, and that's squeezing me, right? So it's not just the corporations. I can't speak for them, but I can tell you that, okay? This is just showing us the percentage that when people are leasing their vehicles, what they got to pay. And of course, it is at a very high rate. Haven't seen this since the financial crisis. Americans are struggling to afford their car payments. The percentage of borrowers at least 60 days late on their car loans is at the highest on record. I covered this in a previous video. And you can look at that and be honest with yourself of what that means. People can't pay their bills. They got the credit card situation. They're doing the buy now, pay later. This has become a big problem. And if you look at it in, with the blinders on, if you're in your silo, whatever analogy you want to use, well, of course, you're not going to see the big picture, but you are here, right here now. And I appreciate that because it tells me that you want to know what's actually going on. Here we have a new car loans amount financed. In dollar terms, it is extreme. What else is extreme? Did you guess that price? Did you guess that price of that little tiny apartment? Here we go. $2,300. So you can see where that guy is on one side to the other. I mean, you can pretty much, reach out and touch the other side. And looking at it from the other perspective, you see where the kitchen counter is. Tiny. 2,300. And that tells us what's been happening right now. The value of the currency has declined. At the same time, you've got one issue stacked on top of another. Many people are telling you that there's this mass deflation that's going to happen. But just look at it and be honest with yourself. If real estate prices were to come down by a significant amount historically, okay, let's say 30% nationwide, that would be historically, that hasn't really happened many times, okay? The prices are still absurd and people still can't afford it. Do you see the problem here? Stock prices. What if they came down 30%? That's the whole market, okay? 30%. Some stocks, of course, will always perform better and some will perform worse. 30%. That's happened. Many bear markets that occurs. 30%. Prices are still crazy by countless metrics. What if they came down by 50% or real estate by 50%? Both circumstances leads us to the same situation of this being out of control at those levels. And what would happen if we get to that point of minus 30%, minus 50%? There's going to be action by the Federal Reserve, by the government and their stimulus measures. And what happens as a result of that? Well, we don't know the conditions and the reason why these prices would come down. It's not just because there's too much debt or just because, there's some sort of, worry. I think I'm worried I'm going to suddenly sell. There's a catalyst that needs to occur. And, depending on that would affect and impact, how the reaction from the government, from the Fed. But think about this. Of course they would print. Of course they would do bailouts, bail-ins, who knows? And that would be massively inflationary. So the direction we have is more inflation in front of us. And if you knew that more inflation was the most likely, the base case scenario, what would you do? What would you do? And start to think from that point, reverse engineer, and start to rebuild your portfolio, your life, your circumstance right now. If you want to get the details of your financial education sorted out, well, I do that in Compass. Over 1,000 people have been through Compass. It's right here at themoneygps.com. And if you want to get your financial circumstances looked at by a CFP or a fiduciary completely for free on a 45-minute call, I partnered with Money Pickle, and they will hopefully be able to get you out of that pickle. Click on the link right here in the description so that you can do this. I have gotten great feedback from those who have signed up so far, and I hope that they will help you and at least, give you a second look at your circumstance. I want to thank you for being here today. Hit that thumbs up button. And of course, as always, join me tomorrow for the latest and greatest information. I'll see you then.